Good morning, everyone. This is Nikachu, Merfolk Master, and we are here with day 125 of Coffee and MTG, the morning magic talk show, where we discuss all things Magic the Gathering. First half, we're going to talk not only all things Magic the Gathering, but also answer all your questions. Both myself and the community help to answer the things that you want to know about. And then the second half, we do deck list review, where if you have a deck list that you need feedback on, you're always like, hey, can you look at my 75, see what you think? Is there anything you'd change? Well, this is the place for it. So brew up your cup of coffee and let's brew up a conversation today. Yo, Ugly Hood Rat has subscribed for 4 months in a row. He's first. He's ready for the conversation. Thank you very much for the thank you very much for the 4 months, Ugly Hood Rat. Really appreciate it. Reality, good morning. The fish fam, the morning fam is on the way. Yes, let's do this thing. And part of a morning talk show is to literally drink the coffee as we are doing this. You've been here for 20 minutes. I know I'm a little bit late. I'm like 4 minutes late, but you're a little early, even for me. But that's all. It's all good. It's all good, reality. So what? Well, as we were waiting for people to come in, I'm just going to change the stream info to Magic the Gathering, as I always have to do by default. And by the way, if you're watching on the replay, welcome to the morning show. I know a lot of people like the replays. They appreciate it. And, I appreciate that you can't get enough of me talking about Magic. And if you ever want to join live, don't forget that we do this at twitch.tv/NikachuMTG, Mondays to Fridays, 9 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time. So if you want to become part of the conversation, join us. Join the fish fam in the morning. I am so close to my goal here. Probably today will be the day. What is the goal? You wanted like 100,000 I don't know, Twitch points or whatever. So many content creators are switching over to Pokemon. How long until you become Nikachu Squirrel Master? Not anytime soon. And if anything, I would be like Nikachu Haymaker Master. Although I don't know what the metagame is. Like last time I played the Pokemon trading card game, and I did play it, way back in the day. That was like in the year like 1998, 1999, like those years. So it's been a while. I have no idea what the metagame looks like right now. Although I always wondered, let's get Professor Oak. I always assumed like the reason the game was so busted and broken was because they had this card. Literally 0 mana, discard your hand and draw 7 cards. And it was completely busted. If one side had a Professor Oak, the other side didn't have one, then you would just stomp them because you just empty your hand, then you Professor Oak and refill it. So, this was one of the most... it's 0 mana one-sided Wheel of Fortune, Professor Oak. So I always thought that this was a card that, didn't make the game balanced and made it a crappy card game. What I did not realize that over many years, they kept making these stupid Professor cards. Look, we've got... Professor's Research. Discard your hand and draw 7 cards. What there's a if I do not understand, discard. Let's Professor Sycamore. Discard your hand, draw 7 cards. They didn't actually learn anything. They just kept doing the same crap that they were doing before. Professor Oak just lives in the name of a bunch of other professors. Discard your hand, draw 7 cards. This is ridiculously busted. Anyway. I don't know how this card game still stands on 2 legs, in my opinion. So Lord Magic is at 90. Well, you're going to get to 100,000 channel points before I get to 100,000 gold on Arena. Do the foils curl in Pokemon? Oh yeah. They curl worse than in Magic. Well, I don't know about the new stock. I can just tell you from way back in the day, they curled really hard. They were bad for curling. At the time, though, I didn't think anything of it. What's the big deal with curling? Who cares? 12-year-old brain. Good morning, everyone. Had a great weekend. I also had a great weekend. I made a Merfolk Nightmare. Ship people with nets, sharks, and piranhas, and then eat fish and have a way to turn Merfolk into an ape or a human. Sweet. Well, here, I'll quickly look at it. This is not really a review. We're just going to check out what Balada is up to. Appears that this is sort of a troll deck. So, this is a flavor deck. Ghost Ship. Well, you can regenerate Ghost Ship for triple blue. I like that. Moat Piranhas, Defender. Raf, Capuchin, ships. So we have the captain of the ship. We have Shipwreck Looter. We have our pirates that are going to be on the ship. We've got what we're going to go look for and capture. Skyship Plunder. So these are all pirates. Unsettled Mariner. And this is just like, and here, Wishful Merfolk. Something to plunder as well. So actually, well, I don't know how Pongify works in with the theme here. Fell Flagship. Pirates you control get +1/+0 whenever a Fell Flagship deals combat damage to a player. That player discards a card. So you're more plundering. And Skyship Sovereign, Consul, and Shark Typhoon. Yeah, that's somewhat with the theme, I guess. This deck is made to be scary to all Merfolk players. Well, it should have Ensnaring Bridge in the main. There are boats that will catch the fish folk, even a fish imposter with a net. Even the ocean's sharks, squids, and piranhas are dangerous to the fish folk. There is even a ghost of a ship that haunted the fish folk. The crew is even present to take care of the fish folk. Teferi is even here to slow down and bounce all the fish back to their homes. And the fish can even be turned into a human, an ape, or even sent on a path to exile. Worst of all, there are no islands for the fish folk to have a haven. There are no islands in this deck. Where's the islands? Where's the mana base? Oh. Hold on, here's the lands. A Darkar Waste, Celestial Colonnade, Mystic Gate, Seachrome Coast, and Sajiri Refuge. Thank you very much for contributing. Thank you very much for sharing that, Balada. And also, thank you very much for the bits. 667. A little off from 666, but you rounded it up. Nice. Thank you very much. Uni 667. No, that I don't get. Good morning, Mikey J. Good morning, Lord Lerock. Well, I'm not the Millfolk Master. I'm the Merfolk Master. What's everyone's favorite dead TCG? Well, I would say Pokemon, but Pokemon's actually like alive again. Some people might say Magic the Gathering. Honestly, I never played a lot of trading card games. My first one was the Pokemon trading card game, and I just transferred to Magic, and then that's it. No Lawan Cephalid Empress. Maybe this was a modern deck. That's not modern legal. Makes me wish I still had a kitchen table group to make stupid shit like this. You still can. You just got to make it. You got to invite people who are willing to make that stuff. Good morning, Hot Chocolate. It's not just scary, just silly. Uni was... Oh, yes, the emoticon. That's right. The unicorn. I see it. I can see it on Twitch, but I can't see it on StreamYard, the service that I use. And Balada shared 10 emotes with everyone. Thank you very much, Balada. Flesh and Blood. Isn't that new? Like, hasn't that been out for like a little while? I'm not really that familiar with it, but I recall hearing about it within the last few years. Referring to, oh yeah, that Mill guy raid. Yeah, Mill. Well, you know, the blue modern players that are not playing Control got to stick together. Good morning, Dexter Johnson. I've never tried Flesh and Blood. I have no idea what that's all about. I mean, if I quickly look, Flesh and Blood card game. Will I even recognize the cards? Nope. I have no idea what this is. Looks like Throne of Eldraine, though. Or probably Throne of Eldraine just ripped them off. The way the cards are made. Flesh and Blood. Katsu the Wanderer. Renar, Reckless Rampage, Doranthea, Iron Song, and Bravo, the Showstopper. Which is quite lovely. Anyway, I have no idea what this game is about. Good morning, Kyoka620. For me, it's Netrunner or some Star Wars bullshit. Well, we might see some of that bullshit back. Remember, you know, if Wizards is going to do more collaborations in the future, you better believe. Well, I actually have a feeling we would not see Star Wars, just because I think trying to get the intellectual property rights to that would be just ridiculously expensive, and Disney's not going to give it away for cheap. Darn, I lost my fish badge. Fish badge may come back. I do make pauper decks that are really silly. It came out, yeah, so it's very new. I have no idea what the health of that game is, though. Pokemon has actually been doing well for a bit. Just got back into it and having fun playing the theme deck format. I heard Pokemon has made a huge return over the last 6 years. Like it has come back. I mean, it was a certified dead game for some number of years, like a decade, and has legitimately made a comeback. I'm not sure which game we're now referring to here, but I'm sure money is involved. I made a Christmas deck with stuff like Bazaar Trader and Brass Bombshell. I mean, I wouldn't say all my Troll Tuesdays had a theme around it, but there were definitely some Troll Tuesdays that had a very flavor theme to it. Most expensive card is 4,000 US. In which game? I'm guessing Pokemon. I can't imagine Flesh and Blood, a game that's only been around for like 1 or 2 years, has a card that expensive. I also thought that like a first edition Charizard is more than $4,000 if in mint condition. Parasulky, good morning. Do you think you can have 1 or 2 Sig with all the shadow? Most definitely not. Like that, you see when you let's go look at Sig. I get this every year. Sig River Cutthroat. So the deal with Sig River Cutthroat, it's a blue-blue or a black-blue or black-black. At the beginning of each end step, if an opponent lost 3 or more life this turn, you draw a card. I can very confidently say that drawing cards right now in 2020 is hands down the least important thing in Modern right now. Drawing cards does not mean anything. The most important, I mean, it means something. I mean, I guess if every single one of your cards draws a card. But for the most part, I mean, it's all about tempo. Now, Sig River Cutthroat not only deals really a crappy amount of damage, but is so narrow. Like what people say. When I hear, is this card positioned again because of this deck? You also have to ask yourself, is this card well positioned against any deck? Like if I bring this in against Death and Taxes or like humans, Control, what else? Like there's. Would this card be good in a multitude of different archetypes, not only just Death Shadow? Is it good against Prowess? I don't think it's good against Prowess. It attacks for way too little, and also Legendary doesn't matter so long as it's a good card. But for the most part, no, I don't think Sig River Cutthroat is that good of a card. So here's the deal. If Sig River Cutthroat is a big deal, your opponent will just kill your creatures. And make sure that they don't lose 3 life a turn and leave you with the Sig River Cutthroat on the battlefield. Now, if they don't kill the creatures, you are just better off having another Lord or something else instead of Sig River Cutthroat. That's the deal here. Very hard to get. It's very hard to force value out of Sig. And yeah, it's basically, if you start drawing cards with Sig, it's a win more card because you are just better off having a random Lord, which is also playable against anything and everything in the format. So anyway, that's thanks for asking, Blada. I get that question all the time. It's good to refresh people. There would need to be a lot of decks losing. It's not even just losing life. I don't know where Sig would be good at because the power is too small. 1 power is just way too weak for the modern day Magic scene. Waiting for Yu-Gi-Oh! Rush duels to come out in the States. That looks fun. Apparently it's a brand new Yu-Gi-Oh! Game. Crossover with D&T might open up possibilities for Stranger Things crossover, which would lead to general Netflix crossover. Yes, we just need to cross over with everything from Netflix. Heart of Fendel is $4,000. This is not... Is this like the Black Lotus of the game or something? Legendary. When you pitch Heart of Fendel, if you have less something than your opponent, gain 1. I'm going to assume that ability is really good because I do not understand it whatsoever. Hold on, let's go to eBay. Can we go to eBay? What is this going for? Heart of Fendel. Holy shit. I mean, this is what it's going for. Can we see sold listings? This sold for 3. Okay, so I can believe that there was one for 3,100. Well, but maybe this is inflated, or maybe not. It looks, I don't know. Is this like a bogus selling? So there was a few. There was one, two. There was something sold in August for $460, $580 in July. But in October it started ramping up. I don't know what the crossed line means. And then one sold on October 8th for 3,100. Oh, is it because it was foil and the other ones were not foil? Someone help me. The price has exploded over the last few months. Oh, it's a cold foil. So the cheaper ones were not cold foil. They were just like regular. It costs money. That's right. It costs money. The best kind of money. Yeah, this game is not old. This game is like a year or so old. Oh, it's the only version of the card. So the price just exploded overnight. From like 2,300 to 3,100 in a matter of... No, then it went down. Look, sold October 8th, 3,100, but then went down to 2,350. I have a feeling the price of this card is going to crash hard. Doesn't look like it's worth $4,000, unless that was 4,000 Canadian dollars. Which in that case, yeah, everything in Canadian looks more expensive. It's crazy to think, but Rudy has been around so long that some of the TCGs he's featured on his channel have died. That's correct. Talking about... I wonder what he thinks about the investment of TCGs that he's invested in. Talking about Star Wars Secret Lair had me realize that the only thing worse than Hasbro owning Wizards of the Coast would be probably Disney owning Wizards of the Coast. Terrifying. Could happen. You know, it would be actually an incredibly good synergetic acquisition for Disney to like buy out Hasbro. Like, what better way to make toys for your movies and your animations than to own the business that makes the damn stuff? I don't know how Disney distributes their toys and through who. I mean, I'm sure they make some stuff with Hasbro, but like Hasbro sounds like a very good acquisition for a business like Disney. So could happen. And these big conglomerate companies are buying stuff in and out all over the place. I don't know. I'd rather have a Disney Mulan Kamigawa crossover or Hercules Theros crossover than a Walking Dead and Rick and Morty. And they tried, I didn't realize that they sort of tried to sneak that in for Halloween. Torpor versus Takali Honor Guard versus Hushbringer, free for all. Which do you think is better? I think overall Torpor Orb is the best one. I'm not sure because Torpor Orb is just the hardest one to remove. When we think of Torpor Orb, so let's get Torpor Orb on the battle. Let's get Torpor Orb. I think for the most part, any deck that you're using Torpor Orb against, at least today, is a creature-based deck, and creature-based decks don't always have the greatest answers to artifacts, whereas you can be guaranteed that they'll have an answer to a creature like Hushbringer. This is, I mean, maybe I'm wrong with my analysis, but I think for sure any creature-based deck has some answers to creatures. Although maybe those creatures have ETB abilities that are useless now because of Hushbringer. What else? There's also the Honor Guard. I mean, okay, so if I were to rank them, I think this one's the worst. Creatures entering the battlefield don't cause abilities to trigger. I would prefer so number one, I would prefer Torpor Orb. Like, can't be removed by removal. Number two, I'd have Hushbringer, because it's flying and has lifelink. Creatures entering the battlefield or dying don't cause abilities to trigger. So that's like, so what's the advantage of Honor Guard? Creatures entering the battlefield don't cause abilities to trigger. Creatures entering the battlefield don't cause abilities to trigger. So Hushbringer is just a strictly better card, and has evasion, has lifelink, but I would still put number one to Torpor Orb, and Honor Guard seems clearly the worst. Yeah, 1/3 creature can block a little bit better. Who cares? Not really that relevant. Gain some life. Get some life like the Hushbringer does. I don't know about the rest of you, but I find this art to be very creepy. I find it's very creepy. The fucking lips all over the place. Do you see the lips? There's two sets of lips here. Or sorry, there's more than two sets. Okay, there's two sets of lips in the background, and then there's lips going all around her waist, and I actually find it a very disturbing image, to be honest. And also, I find it looks like superimposed photography. Like, I don't feel the art there, or I don't feel like anything was like hand painted. I just feel I get a sense that there's some real photographs were used, or this artist is like has what's called photorealistic skills. Anyway, I actually find the this art disturbs me. Very disturbing. What are people's... Nikachu right now feels like guys from a pawn shop being clueless about the game. That's right. Exactly. I saw that episode of like Pawn Stars, and they looked at a bunch of Charizards and they're like, I don't know anything about this. Screw it, I'm not buying any of it. Rodion San says, so I realized something sweet about your top 10 videos. It's good if I ever stop playing Modern and come back months later. Keeps me in the loop. Yep, that's the point of it. Do you Rakdos show could add white to play Path and Boros Charm? It deals damage, double strike, and protect your board. Absolutely. I think there's a lot of room to play like white in our play Mardu over Rakdos. It's just like a lot of people don't want to do it. And I think like Stoneforge Mystic is a fantastic addition to any like Rakdos deck, or almost anyone. I mean, this probably doesn't work very well in a Death Shadow build. Disney should be broken up. Where's Teddy? I don't get it. If Disney bought Hasbro, I bet they would tell Wizards of the Coast to fuck off and sell it for cash to Tops or Upper Deck. I doubt it. I sincerely doubt it. From the stockholder meetings, it appears that Wizards of the Coast makes more money than anything else in Hasbro right now. Nothing else is making money. It's basically Hasbro is Wizards of the Coast, and vice versa. They'd make a big blunder. Maybe from some players' point of view, Wizards of the Coast doesn't know what they're doing, but from a lot of other players' point of view, and from the business itself, they do know what they're doing. Hush stops death triggers as well. Yes, then that Honor Guard does not. Yeah, Hushbringer and Torpor Orb is funny with Uro. We can just go with that. I mean, Every single time I'm thinking, oh, now is time for Hushbringer or Torpor Orb, I keep forgetting that it interacts so badly with Uro. It's so bad because Uro has 2 triggers when it enters the battlefield. The first one, you gain 3 life and you draw a card and you can put a land onto the battlefield. But the other one is when it enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless it escaped. That's not going to apply anymore. It is just going to ETB. I wonder, did anyone try to make a Torpor Orb Titan deck? Like a Torpor Orb Titan deck. It's like a 5-color deck with Torpor Orb, turn 2 Torpor Orb, turn 3 Titan. So you like screw over your opponents, but you also get the benefits of playing all your Titans. You can play like Croxes and Uros, all the Titans. Just play all the Titans with Torpor Orb. That sounds like a deck that should be made. Torpor Orbs, and you can have Vial too, because all these Titans are really cheap. Like Croxes, like 2 mana, right? You can play Hush. This deck should play Hushbringer. Man, that is a troll deck. It may not even be a troll deck. It just might end up being busted. Just play your deck with a bunch of Torpor Orbs. Or the card's not called Torpor Orbs. Just play Torpor Orb, Hushbringers, and then play a bunch of like and even the Honor Guard. Sure, why not? We'll play them all. And then even with Ether Vial, and we'll just start putting like Croxes onto the battlefield, and they won't have to sacrifice each other. Now, there will be no initial advantage, so you got to turn to Path it, or because there's no ETB value. You have to wait for it to attack to get the real value out of it. But still, you don't get to sacrifice it at 2 mana. You can have Uro, yeah, Titan of Nature's Wrath, 3 mana, 6/6. Next time it attacks, you gain 3 life. Draw those cards. I don't know. I don't know the other Titans. Or were these the only Titans that were made? Can't remember. Can't remember if there was other Titans. Because you would need enough of these Titans to make it worthwhile. I've got a Lurrus Orb deck with Vexing Devil, Hunted Horror, and Croxa. The turn 2 Orb is slow, but it gets wins versus tempo and control. So Ugly Hoodrat did do it. It's even nastier with Broadmoth. They would just use Croxa and Uro themselves. Not a fan of the crossovers. I understand that at some point when something gets but enough, it's inevitable. However, as a fan of the lore, I find it lacking. I also find it very I mean, like, it just warps the lore. Oh, when something gets big enough, yeah. I mean, it contradicts with the universe of Magic the Gathering completely. If they continue down this path of constant ETBs on creatures, Torpor Orb will be like $100 in a few years. Well, it's not on the reserve list. It'll get reprint. The moment it hits $20, we've got to reprint it. We've got to make some money off that Torpor Orb. Yeah, 3 toughness still dies to Bolt. Crossovers are fine as long as it doesn't interfere with the core aspect of the product. Problem with Walking Dead is the cards are legal in Eternal formats. And technically legal in Commander. I should get back to the old, if you have questions, leave 3 question marks or give me an @Nikachu MTG, because I'm now finding myself reading everything. How would you react to a Rick and Morty themed Ether Vial? I wouldn't play it. I'll just say that. But it would be good to have the option. I mean, so long as it's Ether, like, I don't mind cards with a theme on it, so long as it's functionally the actual card of, like, of an original Magic card. Like, if they make a Rick and Morty themed Ether Vial, sure, go for it. They can make a Rick and Morty themed Lord of Atlantis, but it's still called Lord of Atlantis, and it still gives +1/+1 to all other merfolk and gives them Island Walk, and it's still a 2/2 creature. I'm totally for all that stuff. Damn Fish Player, it would be good to add a webcam on Triton Live Pet. Do I have any live pet here? I'm assuming you're talking about my cat. Kind of hilarious. Oh yeah, I answered this. In standard, you could turn 2 Hushbringer and then turn 3 Uro. There we go. But I don't need enough Titans to make this work. There needs to be enough payoffs for this. But there's a lot of creatures with ETB, give your opponent something. There's also, like, remember, there's that 7/7 flyer for 2 mana. ETB, give your opponent, like, 2 3/3 creatures with reach or something like that. The more I think about it, the more interesting it gets. Or you could, like, also, like, this also gave me, yeah, the new Stifle Knot. So, like, I mean, also, we could jam Stifle effects in the deck just in case you don't draw your Hushbringer or whatever. You got to be quick, though, because you got to get that Hushbringer out, and then you got to get that Uro out at the same time before the Hushbringer dies. Otherwise, you lose. You don't get anything. May you have some list with this interaction. I personally do not, but if someone else does, you're welcome to share it. Yeah, thank God there are no. I was thinking for a second, where are the other Titans? Like, when are they gonna finish the cycle? Because like, we have only 2 Titans, Simic and Rakdos? That seems pretty unfair to all the other parts of the color pie. I can just see the title of this video. Torpor Orb takes over because of Titans. Oh yeah, we can do some deck reviews right now. Say so. Broadmoth is all of the advantage without the drawback. This idea sounds really janky. Well, it is. I'm assuming you meant janky. Okay, so yeah, we can transition into deck list review. So if you have a deck list that you need some feedback on, you want to hear the opinions of the community, don't forget to go ! Deck review space, give the URL to your deck list. Don't put it in the chat. Some people have done that before. It's a bit weird. We don't do that here. And then please leave any comments that you have about the deck. Let me know if it's budget, what the format is, what do you need help against, what are you concerned about? Do you need help with your sideboard? Is there a matchup that you aren't beating that you need some more help against? So please do leave those comments. And as people leave deck list for deck list review, and by the way, you're selected randomly here with my deck review bot. So everyone has a if you submit your deck list, everyone has a chance. And if you don't get picked this week, if you don't get picked today, there's always tomorrow. There's always another day. Usually everyone's list gets chosen. And as people are submitting their deck list, we're going to thank our sponsors, starting with themanabase.com, your home base for everything Magic the Gathering. And the Manabase is sponsored by Fusion Gaming Online, my favorite local game store. Their deal of the week this week. Save 15% off all Zendikar Rising singles and sealed product. So this is a Canadian store in Canadian prices. So go check out Fusion Gaming Online. Yeah, this is where I do basically all of my shopping. All my Magic shopping. And we're also going to thank Mana Traders, the premier place to rent Magic cards online. And you can support the channel by using my Mana Traders link in the description below, or you can save 15% off your first 3 months by using my coupon code Nikachu. And Mana Traders just wants me to let you know that they have more value now in their tier subscriptions. The website will load. So their tiers now, their popular premium tier now offers a rental capacity of 400 tickets. You can see at the bottom right. Can I highlight this? I cannot highlight this. It used to be 350, and their gold tier used to be, I think it was 750 tickets, the rental capacity, and they pushed it up to 850. So anyone who's already at these tiers, you automatically get that value. And for anyone new or interested in joining Mana Traders, I'll just let you know, more value. Rent more tickets for the same amount of money, or more tickets worth of cards. Yeah, the ultimate tier, I can afford half an Omnath deck. And that's actually, that's a point I didn't bring up in my top 10 video. The Omnath deck is underrepresented in the metagame because it is so expensive. Like, you can't even borrow it unless you already own some of the expensive cards. It's like 1,250 ticks. It's ridiculously expensive. So expensive. Money Tribal is right. Money Tribal. They don't call it Money Tribal for nothing. Okay. Let's go check out some deck lists. Okay, Tempo Mage's deck list has been chosen. I had started this idea a while ago. Wanted to sub it because we discussed Trade Mage recently. Oh, let's go check out a Trade Mage deck. This could be interesting. Okay. Delver of Secrets, Terramander, Curious. Oh, I love the idea of Bizarre Trade Mage and Terramander in the same deck because you can discard a bunch of cards into the graveyard to help you adapt the Terramander. Okay, so Curious Homunculus. Well, this one I don't really believe in. Add a colorless to your mana pool. Spend this mana only to cast an instant or sorcery spell. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 3 or more instant or sorcery cards in your graveyard, transform. Are you the one who submitted this card last time? And I was just like, this is not good. Nah, it's still not good. Dump this card. This is not a good. This is just a bad card. On your second turn of the game, you are never going to want to play this card. Cryptic Serpent costs 1 less to cast for each instant or sorcery card in your graveyard. This card is awesome. This card I can get behind. This is a really cool card. You didn't submit? Okay. Well, in that case, if you aren't that last person that submitted Curious Homunculus, dump this card. Just play 2 more Bizarre Trade Mage. I think that's totally fine in this deck with what you're trying to do. I think that's totally fine in this deck. Cryptic Serpent was played in Legacy for a little while. Like, I mean, the thing that's awesome about this card, dodges Bolt, dodges Lightning Bolt, like it dodges Lightning Bolt, dodges Fatal Push. Flame Slash is now seeing play. So, like, the only things that can hit it are basically I mean, there are, of course, there's going to be cards that can kill it, but dodges a lot of the really popular stuff. So I think Cryptic Serpent is a really cool idea in a deck that's discarding a bunch of cards into the graveyard. So Serum Visions, Spell Pierce, Stream of Thought. Target player puts top 4 cards of the library into their graveyard. You shuffle up to 4 cards of your graveyard into the library. I think there might be better cards than this that we can throw in. Thought Scour, totally fine. Vapor Snag is fine. Frantic Inventory, I like the idea of this card. Ideas Unbound, draw 3 cards, discard 3 cards at end of turn. Not bad for a mono blue deck. Rune Snag. Current target spell unless its controller pays 2 plus an additional 2 for each card named Rune Snag in each graveyard. And send to sleep. So you can't even get a good payoff off of this because it's like a Baral, right? When you flip it, there's just not that many things that cost 1 generic. It's just mostly one blue. You have 2 Tormod's Crypt, 4 Ceremonious Rejection, Relic, Ether Gust, Mystical Dispute. I have no problem with these cards. We got to dump this thing. We got to add this. We're going to need a little bit more. We might need more mana, though, for Bizarre. I mean, maybe this is a bit high on the curve. Maybe it is. I wish there was just more stuff with flashback that you could, like, get from the graveyard. Does anyone have any ideas? Ideas Unbound. It's not bad. Draw 3 cards, discard 3 cards at end of turn, but it requires quite a bit of mana. I don't think there's anything too bad about this card. Draw 3 cards, discard 3 cards. Maybe Logic not, but I think this deck wants more cards in the graveyard so that you can get the Cryptic Serpent synergy off and also the Terramander synergy off. Anyone has that zombies list from a few days ago? It's actually 5-0'd. It's published. So look up Aspiring Spike on MTG Goldfish, and then look up some of his latest 5-0s. One of them is the zombie list, and I'm gonna play it on Wednesday. Just look up Aspiring Spike, like Google Aspiring Spike into MTG Goldfish, and you'll see all his recent 5-0s. One of them is a zombie list. Oh, Balada is already on it. Thank you very much, Balada. Maybe Mission Briefing. Is this a Remand deck? It could be. Force of Negation. Yeah, it could go into this deck. I don't know what we take out. Maybe the Send to... Okay, there are some like loose, weird cards. I'm not in love with Stream of Thought. I'm not in love with the Send to Sleep. Tap up to 2 target creatures. They don't untap. Like, this is not very strong. So there's definitely room for like Force of Negation, but the problem with Force Negation is it eats up resources in your hand, and you want as many resources in the graveyard. You're already like, there's a lot of cards in here like Bizarre Trade Mage that is also already like card disadvantage. I don't know how to build this deck properly, but I would imagine that we want as many cards with flashback in the graveyard as possible, so that even though we discard cards, we can still get value out of them. That's the way I look at. That's the way I would try to build this deck. There's a lot of conventional Delver cards in here, like Spell Pierce and Serum Visions and Thought Scour, but not enough things that I can use from my, like Think Twice, for example. Like if I discard Think Twice from my hand, it's okay because I'm going to get the value from this card later. What are blue cards with flashback? This is a modern deck, right? Yeah. Text. Flashback. And it's a blue card, and its CMC is less than 3, and the format is modern. See what shows up. Okay, Artful Dodge does not look playable. Target player puts top 3 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. Like, that might be a better card than, say Dream Twist. I mean, I don't think Dream Twist is very good, but that might be a better card than, say, Stream of Thought. Memory's Journey. Flashback is a green, but it's not very good. Return target creature you own to your hand. That's not useful. Scarrow of all possibilities. Scry 2, then draw a card. Flashback is too expensive. There's actually not that many. There's literally Think Twice. Okay. This is hard. This one's not too bad. Silent Departure. Sorcery to return target creature to its owner's hand, and then you can flash it back for 5. Now, that's not too bad. So, see, that's still going to be relevant way late in the game. But there does not appear to be that much stuff. The target creature unblockable is useless. Increasing confusion. Target player puts top X cards of their library into their graveyard. If it was cast from the graveyard, that player puts twice that many cards. Not very good. Crap. Silent Departure and Think Twice are the only 2 cards. Silent Departure might be better in this deck than Vapor Snake. Might. I say that very carefully, because Vapor Snag is an instant. There's a lot of value in it being an instant, but no flashback. And I guarantee you there's going to be games where you just have random 5 mana, you just love to bounce something. Oh, should we look at also cards like Escape? Yeah, do you want? Let's look up the Escape mechanic. I wasn't thinking about that. Escape is basically flashback, right? So Glimpse of Freedom, draw a card, escape for 3, exile 5 other cards. Unfortunately, like 2 mana draw card is not very impressive. Sleep of the Dead, tap target creature doesn't untap, exile 3. Well, Sleep of the Dead I still don't like. Sweet Oblivion, target player puts top 4 cards. They don't have very good flashback cards for blue. Echo of Eons. But that's not Modern Legal, is it? Yeah, this is Modern Horizons. Oh, no, but this is Modern Horizons. Why didn't we see this? Oh, but we saw it. We saw the other one. Each player shuffles their hand in graveyard into their library, then draws 7 cards. Actually, this is not going to work with the deck because we need cards in the graveyard. Rebound is not quite the same as... We're trying to see how we can cast cards from the graveyard because we're going to dump cards in the graveyard. Just the Wind? Oh, I see. Maybe try to use some Madness tech in here. It's tough. This is like... I think we're working way too hard to just use Unsummon. This is not good. Yeah, let's look up Mission Briefing. Surveil 2, then choose an instant or sorcery card in your graveyard. You may cast that card this turn. If that card would be put into the graveyard this turn, exile it instead. I don't know, it's just basically Snapcaster Mage, and it's sort of clunky. Narcomoeba, we're not actually milling all that much. We're just discarding from our hand more than anything else. So Narcomoeba is actually not going to do anything. What about Retrace? Oh, cards with Retrace. Is there anything good in blue with Retrace? Discard, like basically discard lands and cast them? I'm going to guess there isn't. There's one card under 3 mana. Change the text of target spell or permanent by replacing all instances of one color word with another. Not particularly useful. Una's Grace? Target player draws a card. You may cast this card from your graveyard by discarding a land card. I don't know if this is going to do what we want, because the problem with Retrace is that we need to discard lands, and this deck needs instants and sorceries in the graveyard. I mean, I guess it's like a fine way of like pitching lands that we don't need, but it doesn't help us with Terramander or the Cryptic Serpent. What's Aftermath? So many different forms of flashback. No cards found. But maybe I'm looking at, like, I'm putting CMC less than 3. Maybe there's more. Maybe there are more options when I go CMC less than 5, but as like a cheap. Like, I guess the initial casting cost can be really expensive. It's just the second casting cost has to be cheap. Forbidden Alchemy. Factor of Fiction is just going to be way too expensive. It's a great card. No doubt, great card, but just going to be way too expensive for this deck. 4 mana. We have like a 19 land mana base. Yeah, me too. When Nick is like, I forgot about all these mechanics that are just worse flashback effects. Forbidden Alchemy, look at the top 4 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, the rest in your graveyard. But it's like, well, instant speed is nice, but I think it's just a bit too expensive. Pieces of the Puzzle is a good one. Now, it's expensive, but like, but maybe this one's worth it. But we need something that we can use from the graveyard. Like, that's the point. Like, this deck can put stuff in the graveyard really well. Maybe this deck needs a second color. What if it was blue-black and we put Prized Amalgams in the graveyard or something? I don't know. I have no idea how we bring them back, though. Good morning, Rodent. Maybe this deck needs like one more color to it. I mean, unless this is... It actually, honestly, it looks like it's on a budget, so we need to be mono blue. Yeah, make it blue-green for Uro. It would work really well, too. Oh, crap. Forgot daylight savings time ended. Did it? Is it daylight savings time? Did I, like, not realize? Did the clocks go forward or backward? I don't think it's daylight savings time for me. Curious Obsession is very bad in Modern. Way too much removal. Oh, don't worry. The show is not almost over. I can go over the 1 hour. What's deep analysis? So is it yeah, in the UK I was confused as to why you're on so early. So so in Europe they already had their daylight savings time. I most definitely have not in Canada. Not that I know of. Peak is a great cantrip, but we need a little bit, so we have deep analysis. Oh, this card. But this is, I don't think this is this Modern legal? No, it's not legal in Modern. And I think it's the initial part is too expensive. And flashback is actually really painful. How do we do this? How do we do this? I guess this is just, if we need to make it mono blue, I guess that's just going to be it. And maybe well, I still don't believe in the Curious Homunculus. If there are 3 or more instant or sorcery card, like it's so small in the beginning, and I think a 3/4 prowess creature. I don't know. Am I underrating this 3/4 prowess creature? That's also a brawl. Am I underestimating you? Maybe I'm underestimating this card. And I said take them all out, and now I'm thinking we gotta put them all back in. Because it's not so easy to abuse Bizarre Trade Mage, as we just found. Like there's just not enough cards we can put in the graveyard. Radical Idea? What is this? Draw a card, Jumpstart. You may cast this card from your graveyard by discarding a card in addition to paying its other cost, then exile this card. It's not bad. I mean, it's in the right direction. At least you have value in the graveyard. Unfortunately, it's still just drawing more cards, and then it just replaces itself because you discard a card and then you draw a card. But you're in the right direction. It is in the right direction because we did look at Think Twice as well. Yeah, it's just cycling. But at least it's something you can get from the graveyard later. Although you don't actually get anything. You have to still discard something. Maybe some cards that care about having copies in the graveyard, like Frantic Inventory. I believe that we have that in the deck. We have Frantic Inventory. So I'm just trying to look for other cards. It's just hard to find. The only one I can find is what was that 1 mana bounce spell that we found? I think the best card that I can add to this deck given the theme of the deck would be the Silent Departure. Sorcery, return target creature to its owner's hand, but you have flashback of 5, so you are able to utilize it later. So I would actually play this maybe over 2 Vapor Snag, a Stream of Thought, and 1 Send to Sleep. So it's just something you can use, and you can use it again, or you can discard it to Bizarre Trade Mage, and you don't feel too bad about it. But I'm not sure, and those would be my suggestions, given I think the budgetness of this deck and the fact, because otherwise this card is like really good. It's a really strong card. The effect is powerful. I mean, it's like dredging almost. There's certainly some way to break it. Mystic Monastery. So in the end, I'm going to keep the Curious Homunculus because maybe it's better than the 3rd and 4th Bizarre Trade Mage, because I can't see a good way that we abuse it really hard. Like we do an okay job, but not a great job, given what cards are in this deck. But that's about it. Mystic. I think this is an enchantment. Well, this is just going to be very, very clunky in this deck. That's all. For a tempo deck, they're not going to want to play any. I mean, yeah, it's good on a budget, but it won't be. It'll be very, very, very clunky. Oh, you got the wrong card. It's all good. It's all good. Anyway, Tempo Mage, thank you very much for submitting your list. All right, let's go to the next deck review. Deck review pick. I hope something out there was valuable. Teamer, I love these colors, but Modern seems not the good format for them. I disagree. I think Teamer is great. Not enough people are playing Teamer. So let's see what we can do for you. There's a lot of good things going for Teamer. Just people don't want to try it. Okay. So we have the Teamer colors, Blossoming Defense. What are you trying to protect? Force Negation, sure. Lightning Bolt, Sinkhole, that's fine. Mana Leak, Manamorphose, Opt, Spike Field Hazard. Deals 1 damage to any target. If this permanent dealt damage this way, it would die this turn, exile it instead. Stubborn Denial and Tarfire. Royal Scions, Ren and 6. Okay, Brazen Borrower, Hex Drinker, Snapcaster Mage, Sprite Dragon, Stormwing Entity, and Tarmogoyf. Braid, Ashok, Blood Moon, Brazen Borrower, Fire Spout, 3 Veil of Summer. Okay, so first off, I think Tarmogoyf is a very good card in this deck. Something feels weird about the Hex Drinker, though. This is a very vulnerable card in this deck. Like, it's real. I like Tarmogoyf. I like the Stormwing Entity. I'm not sure about the Sprite Dragon, because this is not necessarily an aggro deck. It's not like Prowess, where you're just trying to kill them really quickly and you want to play all your spells, because you have a lot of spells in your deck you don't want to play. Like, you can't force Mana Leak out of your hand. You can't force a negation out of your hand. You don't want to necessarily play Blossoming Defense. This is a defensive card. It's not an offensive card. What else? Same thing with Stubborn Denial. So you can't, when you play your Sprite Dragon, you can end up in a situation where you're just attacking for 1 or 2 every single turn instead of like unloading your hand like you see in the Prowess decks, and they make it enormous. So you know what I mean? So I'm not thrilled with this card in this deck. I think Stormwing Entity is just a lot better. You can cast it for cheap, I think, quite reliably, not only with Manamorphose, with other decks, but also it scries, and it's a relatively big body by itself. So it's good at grinding. I mean, when I'm up against Blue-Red Prowess and they play Stormwing Entity, I feel like it's over. I think Tarmogoyf is a very good include in this deck. I'm not thrilled with Sprite Dragon, though. Kithos could be a thing. Brineborn, not bad, actually. Brineborn Cutthroat probably is not too bad. Maybe 1 or 2 more Ren and 6, that's true. Like, Hex Drinker is just, it dies to everything. Like, there's a reason Hex Drinker sees no play in the format at all. Like, nothing. No one's playing Hex Drinker. Unfortunately, it's just too weak of a creature. It's a 1 mana 2/1. Like, it's a good turn 10 play when your opponent's hand is exhausted and you play Hex Drinker and you just pump it up to the point where it has protection from everything, but it's not very good in the early game. And it's too big of a mana sink. Like, you might have... Hex Drinker looks like a 1 mana creature. It's actually like a 10 mana creature, really. I don't think Thing in the Ice works very well in this deck because we're playing, like, we don't want to bounce our Tarmogoyf. We might want to bounce our Stormwing Entity, but I think for the most part we don't want to be bouncing these cards. We want to keep them on the battlefield. Is there a better card? What is a good chunky card in both, somewhere in red, blue, or green that we could play as our 3rd beatdown creature? By the way, who submitted this? It was Insane Mari's deck list. Okay, seems good to cut Hex Drinker and Sprite Dragon 5 more slots for basically creatures. I wouldn't mind having more creatures. Maybe Dreadhorde Arcanist. Brineborn might be one of the better plays. Scourge? What's Scourge? Actually, Uro is not a bad idea. Like, okay, like, I don't know what to say. Uro is like, this is one of the cards to beat in the fucking format right now. Probably you should just have some Uros in this deck. I mean, it looks ridiculous, but like, how do you go wrong with this card? Hooting Madrills is not a bad card either. I think Scavenging Ooze is like, I'm not a huge fan of Scavenging Ooze, to be honest. It's like, it's a good card, but not a great card. If we have some better options, let's go for it. And I think Uro might be one of those options. Yeah, basically. I mean, you're in Simic colors. Let's live like the Simic players do. I think Uro is totally fine in this deck. That could easily replace. I mean, I love. Oh, is it going to be a non-bow with Tarmogoyf? I don't know how this is going to play out. It might, because you want some cards in your graveyard for Tarmogoyf, but then you're going to wipe them out for Uro. So it might not. It might not work. It might, but it also might not. Do we have enough high impact cards? I imagine you want 4. I don't know if you want 4 Lightning Bolt. Mana Leak, Metamorphose. I mean, it's whatever. It can help It helps Tarmogoyf, to be honest. Opt. You might want one more Tower Fire if you're playing with Tarmogoyf. Usually with Goyf, you'd have one Ooze as a way to keep your opponent's win conditions in check, and it wouldn't matter to your Goyf since you'd control what's in the graveyard. My only problem with Ooze is it's a very clunky card. Like, it's clunky for the same reason Hex Drinker is clunky. You sink 2 mana into literally a Grizzly Bear, and it only does something if you sink more and more mana into it. So you need to survive. So Scavenging Ooze is only good in the late game. It's not good in the early game because it's literally just a Grizzly Bear, and you're tapping out every single turn to compete with what your opponent is doing, not with what's in the graveyard. So Scavenging Ooze is basically a good example of being like a 6 to 10 mana card. It looks like an early game play, but it's actually a late game play. Same thing with Hex Drinker. I mean, the cards are not bad. And, throwing 1 or 2 Scavenging Ooze in the deck is fine because I think you expect to reach the late game anyway. So, I mean, maybe Scavenging Ooze is maybe a better card than Sprite Dragon than I would have thought. But I don't know if I want to go overboard with it. Maybe, but there's a lot of games where you're grinding with Uro and you just wipe out your graveyard. But who knows? Maybe your opponent's graveyard is also going to be open, or like is still going to have a bunch of stuff. I would try it. I hope you don't have to buy. I hope you can experiment online or like proxy the deck to see. Because I don't want to tell you go buy Uro because like what Uro's money, right? Yeah, Uro costs money. It's like $34 American dollars. So I might try that over. I mean, definitely over Sprite Dragon. You know what also this deck could probably use if you're running Tarmogoyf? Probably Mishra's Bauble, right? Mishra's Bauble might end up being better than Opt. And then a card maybe better than Blossoming Defense is Traverse. Oops, Traverse the Elven Walls. By the way, you could... Okay, hold on. There's another way of taking this deck. I have so far made suggestions to make it more tempo... Sorry, to be more of a slower tempo deck. You could go aggro. You could totally go aggro. But if you go aggro, I would scrap all the counter spells. You could totally do that. And the way I'd go aggro is you could keep this Tarmogoyf. You could keep the Sprite Dragon. In fact, we would up the Sprite Dragon. But I would also suggest that you play with Monastery Swiftspear and maybe Soulscar Mage in addition to all those cards. Like maybe get rid of, or at least get rid of like Brazen Bar and Hex Drinker, and maybe, I don't know, maybe some of the planeswalkers. You go 4 Stormwing Entity, 4 Sprite Dragon, 4 Monastery Swiftspear, and go more aggro on your opponent. That's a completely different direction. Take out the Stubborn Denials, take out the Mana Leaks, maybe put some counterspells in the sideboard, but basically you're like a blue, you are a Teamer aggro deck, and that was, yeah, like Teamer Prowess, basically. And that would, like, this is a deck that has, the very first deck that ever saw the Mishra's Bauble even being played was a Teamer aggro deck being played by Patrick Chapin. This was the very first time that Mishra's Bauble saw play, and it was used to pump up the Swiftspear and also feed the Tarmogoyf, because it's a fantastic addition to any Tarmogoyf deck. So anyway, that is another, like, I don't know the way you envisioned playing this deck in St. Mari. Maybe I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you want to take a more aggro approach, which is why you played the Sprite Dragon in the first place? Or do you want to play like a more beefier beatdown approach, but you're playing a little bit more patiently, which is why you're playing with so many counter spells? Stubborn Denial and all this other stuff. Because that's another way you can play this deck. You're like somewhere in between the both, and you have to choose one. You don't like too much aggro, because for me, Magic is kind of a counterspell. Okay, that's fine. Then okay, you take the more patient approach. There's nothing wrong with that. I might not play with Blossoming Defense, just because if you have a creature, don't try to protect it. Just try to replace it. Your creatures are for the most part replaceable, and Stormwing will help find more creatures anyway. Your sideboard is great. Ashiok, Abrade. I'm assuming you can use Blood Moon. I didn't double check everything, but I'm pretty sure you probably can use Blood Moon. Forest Islands. Yeah, this looks okay. Brazen Borrower, Ceremonious Rejection, Fire Spout. I hope you can use that card. Oh, it should dodge Tarmogoyf. Your Tarmogoyf should not die. It would kill your Hex Drinker a decent chunk of the time. But if you take Hex Drinker out, then it won't be a problem. I think Fire Spout will be okay. I'm trying to think if you want Anger of the Gods more, though. Maybe, maybe not. And 3 Veil of Summer is totally fine. So anyway, like, Teamer is definitely possible. It's just heavily underexplored, that's all. So I hope that's some valuable feedback for you in St. Marie, and good luck with the deck list. And I would suggest trying out Uro. I don't know if it will actually work, but I would be open to trying it. It's a lot of value in that one card, and a 6/6 creature by itself is like there's a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people just can't deal with an Uro once it's hit the battlefield. But I can't guarantee that will work, because it might be too much of a non-bow with Tarmogoyf. But I suggest trying it out, see what happens. There was a question here. Thoughts on Eminent Domain in Modern? I don't know what this is. Is this a card? Niels Nielsen? That's a great suggestion. Bone Crusher Giant. That's a great suggestion in that last deck. That's very good, actually. I would play that. I would actually play Bone Crusher Giant over a bunch of other removal spells. I might play that over Tarfire, because I think that's more value than making a gigantic Tarmogoyf. Stream of Unconsciousness doesn't give you enough value. I mean, you can pump up the Goyf, but it doesn't replace itself, right? Oh, the Domain deck. What you mean, Tribal Flames? Yeah, I understand what so let's get Tribal Flames on. Tribal Flames, 2 mana. Tribal Flames deals X damage to target creature or player, where X is the number of basic land types among lands you control. I'm really inclined to believe that this deck doesn't work very well anymore. A long time, well, you know, I take it back. I was about to say the biggest problem with this deck, well, I mean, Blood Moon is a factor, but the biggest problem is that the deck it's such an aggro format now dealing so much damage to your, because that's what those zoo decks did. They lost so much life. Fetch, shock into Hollowed Fountain, fetch, shock into like anything, into like Overgrown Tomb. You deal so much damage to yourself to enable just this Tribal Flames. You can get so much damage from a bunch of other cards. So the upside to Tribal Flames by going 5 colors, I don't see it very much. But see you later, Balada. But here's the good news, is that if you make a Death Shadow deck out of this, you can, you basically get compensated for going to a low life total. So maybe there is room to go like this Tribal Flames route, and still take advantage of the fact that you're at a low life total. So I don't want to say I don't want to say this is impossible. Is this list? Okay, let's go check out exactly the list. Budget, Eminent Domain, 43 ticks. Frost Titan. Okay, I'm gonna just say hard no to this deck. There's no way this deck is working. This is completely different. This is completely different from what I thought it was gonna be. Lightning Bolt, Serum Visions. This is just like a Saffron Olive deck. I don't think there's any chance to this. I don't have to look too far. If this deck is good, then I don't know. It just happens to be good. But like off the surface, I mean, I don't believe in it. 6 mana for tapping something down. That's a lot. So what we got? Lightning Bolt, Serum Visions, Remand, Anger the Gods, Wildfire. Each player sacrifices 4 lands. Wildfire deals 4 damage to each creature. And I'll say this effect is powerful. The Wildfire is a super ultra powerful card. I mean, there's definitely going to be games where you just wipe out your opponent's battlefield and you have effectively won. Is it Signet, Mind Stone, so you can ramp into Wildfire? 6 mana is still a lot though. Annex. So I guess you can ramp yourself while stealing your opponent's land. Annex is a pretty strong card. Dream Leash, enchant permanent. You may play Dream Leash only on a tap permanent. You control enchanted permanent. I'll tell you the problem with this deck is it's going to get obliterated on the draw versus like way too many archetypes. Not to mention there are so many vile archetypes right now that just don't even care if you like take their lands, or it's not going to be that big of a deal. And we got spirits, death and taxes, humans, merfolk, a little bit of goblins. So let's read the description. There's a description. Probably the easiest way to think about Eminent Domain is a weird... Why is it called Eminent Domain? It's a weird Ponza deck, except that our Stone Rains are more expensive and come with the upside of giving us control of the opponent's lands rather than blowing them up. Still, the idea is the same. We keep our opponent low on resources and then eventually finish the game with a Titan, except in Eminent Domain, the Titan of choice is Frost Titan rather than Inferno Titan. The other way to view the deck is sort of a budget blue-red control deck, with Annex and Dream Leash taking place of our other mid-range threats and Frost Titan as the finisher. Perhaps the easiest way to break down the deck is to simply walk step by step through what the deck is trying to accomplish. You're going to get crushed on the draw. You're going to get crushed. That's all I'm going to say. You are going to get crushed on the draw. The only way you're interacting on the draw is with Lightning Bolt. That's it. And Remand is not where you want to be on the draw either, especially since you're going to be tapping out to be playing these things. I can see you stealing. You can win some games on the play, because you go turn 1, maybe do nothing, turn 2, do this, and then by turn 3, you start stealing lands, but maybe your opponent hasn't developed a board state enough to beat you. But you're going to get crushed on the draw. Like, this deck has no defense on the draw at all. Okay, but if you go turn 3 Annex, your opponent has like 3 creatures in play, and you're going to die next turn. Doesn't matter if you took a land. You literally need to Wildfire. This deck probably needs more Anger the Gods. This deck probably also shouldn't play Remand. Like, it needs to play more to the board, I think. I think it needs to play way more to the board. I don't know what the good matchups are. Anyway, that's my criticism to this deck. You're going to get murdered on the draw. I don't mind. I like the Wildfire. I'm not gonna lie, Wildfire is super powerful. Each player sacrifices 4 lands. Are you kidding me? You will sacrifice all your lands. Basically, nobody has more than 4 lands in Modern, and you are at least going to have 2 lands left or 2 mana sources after Wildfire has been cast. And it deals a decent chunk of damage to like whatever's on the battlefield, just like Anger of the Gods does. So I would definitely if I were to change this deck a little bit, I'd have to deal. Well, what's in the sideboard? There are 2 more Anger of the Gods. I don't know what to say. Eminent domain is a fancy term for the government being able to take land. Okay, that's interesting because you seize the lands. I know it is a land. The thing is, okay, so like, there's like, how can I put it? We already have Ponza, but stealing lands isn't even the biggest thing anymore. You have to back it up with like a pretty good clock. This deck has no clock at all. It's a little bit more of a control deck. But the thing is, I don't think there's enough resources actually controlling the battlefield. There's literally 6 cards. They need these 6 cards or they're going to die. Oh, my brother's here. And Salute is here. Salute is on the way. So, so that's my problem with this deck. Maybe, okay, does this deck have a chance? Maybe if it respects the battlefield a little bit better. Lightning Bolt is okay, especially on the draw. I can totally understand Frost. Frost Titan, okay, I can get a little bit more because if your opponent doesn't have any mana, then they can't even deal with the Frost Titan. Still, I don't know if this is the best win condition that you could possibly play in this deck. But still, just looking at the list, it's very clunky. Very, 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 very clunky. I don't know. Did you go 5-0 or something? What was his record? Non-budget Eminent domain. Okay, so there's actually a more expensive version. Okay, there we go. So we saw the budget deck. So Frost Titan, Jace the Mind Sculptor I can get behind. Remand. Is that it? You just added... I think you actually want more Mind Stones and Is It Signets in this deck. Cleansing Wildfire, 1 red R, destroy a land, they get basic land you draw. Is that in this deck? It's quite a bit different. Anyway. Budget deck is a budget deck. Does it have will it win games? Sure, it can win games. Do I think it's competitive? No. Not really. It would need to be tuned. It would need to be tuned. And I would say it's more of a Wildfire deck than anything else. And if they could build the deck around Wildfire, I think that would be much more interesting, more impressive. But I mean, Annex is fine. Dream Leash is a bit too expensive, and the only way you're going to cast this thing is because you already slowed your opponent down with maybe Annex. Making opponents go boom with Zendikar Rising updates to Nahiri Boom. What is this coming from? You could go the green route with Blue Steel Permanent and Mungwali Acid Moss. Arbor Elf is a good addition to that. So yeah, the Acid Moss card is very similar. Instead of stealing the card, you are just destroying a permanent and you're drawing and you're getting a land. So you still ramp, well destroy. Anyway, I won't look into this list too much because my brother just showed up, but there was a list by Jim Davis with Nahir the Harbinger updated with Cleansing Wildfire. Well, anyway, okay, that's going to be it for Coffee and MTG. Thank you very much for the submitted deck list and all the discussion that we had today. Talked a lot about the Pokemon trading card game and all sorts of other stuff. And we are going to get into... So for everyone watching on the stream, we're going to continue streaming. We're going directly into Merfolk gameplay. But for everyone watching on YouTube, that is going to be Coffee and MTG for today. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining me today. We had a great conversation and a great cup of coffee, and I will see you at the next cup. Take care, and I'll see you next time.